Today we're going to be painting a nude body. This is such a fun and freeing process and we really hope that you enjoy it. The nude body has been celebrated in art dating back to the 8th century and even back to prehistoric times. So before we get started, I'm just going to talk you through what I've got here in front of me and you can set yourself up the same. I've got an 8x10 size canvas. I'm going to be painting in portrait today, but if you want to, you can always turn your canvas around and paint in landscape. I have a few different size brushes, a bigger flat square one. I've then got another quite big one with round edges and a tiny small one. I have some kitchen towel just for dabbing my brushes on, a glass of water to wash our brushes and also add a little bit of water to our paint. And then over here in my paint palette, I've got a lot of white, and then the colours that I'm going to be using are ultramarine blue, deep turquoise, pale violet, opera rose, and pale olive. So to start with, I'm just going to cover my background with one block colour. You can use any colour that you want for this. I would just dip your paintbrush in the water to loosen up the bristles slightly. And I'm going to go for this pale lilac colour, and I'm just going to mix that water in with my paint just to make it slightly more fluid. And this is the fun bit, because I'm just going to cover up the whole background of my canvas, making sure I'm covering up any of the blank spaces. If you're using a stretched canvas today like I am, you might also want to paint the top, the sides and the bottom as you go as well. It's totally personal preference. Some artists like to cover the edges of the canvas and others don't. This painting is super fun, super freeing. You can be completely expressionist with your art. You can use any colours that you wish. You don't have to follow along with what I'm doing. And what's nice about this painting is you can do this so many different times, painting different bodies, different colours, different backgrounds, different shapes. Just like the body, no two pieces of art are the same. I always tell everyone to just enjoy this process. Painting can be extremely relaxing and mindful, and just getting lost in your brushstrokes is one of the joys of creating art. If ever you feel like your paint or your paintbrush is getting a bit dry or sticky, you can just add a little bit of water to it, mix it in and go back in. We're now going to give our paintbrush a good wash in the water. I like to give it a little tap on the base of the cup just to lift off any of the excess paint. And I'm just moving over to a different brush now. Again, just loosening the bristles in the water. Moving back over to my paint palette, I'm going to mix up the colour for my first shape. So you can do any shape that you like and any colour that you like. But I'm just going to start with a scoop of white as my base. And then to this, I'm just adding a little bit of my turquoise and giving it a good mix. Creating your own individual colours for your painting is also really fun. And I always say, if you don't like a colour that you've mixed up in your palette, don't worry, you don't have to use it. You can always change it up, you can always start again, just wash your brush. As long as you're happy with the colours that you're creating, that's all that matters. So I've just added a little bit more white to this, just to lighten it up slightly. And I would give your backgrounds a little bit of time to dry. If you want to speed things up, you can always give your painting a little dry on a low heat on the hairdryer just to help speed things along. So I've just started creating a shape on the top left-hand corner of my canvas, and I'm keeping these shapes very fluid. I'm sort of keeping the body in mind when I'm creating these shapes and how we've got lovely curves and soft edges. So I'm just keeping that in mind as I'm creating these very abstract shapes. I'm just filling them all in. We can also go ahead and add another layer of colour once these have dried if we want to later on. If you are painting the sides and the top, Just remember to bring this colour around so it wraps around the canvas, so whichever way you look at the canvas you can still see whatever is on the front wraps around the sides. Again, just enjoy this process. There is no right or wrong. Now just giving my brush a wash. And then we're going to move on to creating our next colour. Again, I'm just scooping up some white as the base. And I'm adding some blue to this just to create a light blue shade. Just remember to mix up enough paint to cover the area that you want. Just adding a little bit more white to this, and as I'm mixing, I'm turning the brush different directions just to help mix the paint up. And then I'm going to create my next shape, so I'm just doing this coming off the edge on the right hand side. I'm not overthinking this, I'm just sort of going with the flow. We can always change up the shape if we want to. And I'm just going ahead and filling it in. Remember, if you're using acrylic paint, if you ever feel like your paint is getting a bit dry, just add a little bit more water to your brush, mix it in and go back in. The water really helps keep the paint nice and fluid, especially if it's a warm day or if you're in a warm room, the paint tends to dry a little bit quicker. Just washing off my brush. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix up my next shade. Starting with white again as the base, and I'm just adding some of this pale olive to it, giving it a good mix. I find that by adding the white, it helps make the paint a little bit more opaque, so less see-through. And I really want these shapes to stand out against my background, so the white paint is helping with that. Then whenever you're ready and happy with your colour, you can just create your next shape wherever you want to on the canvas. I'm going to focus this on the bottom left-hand side. First of all, bodies come in so many wonderful and unique different shapes and sizes, and this is really a celebration of the body. So I'm just going to show you a few different techniques that you might be able to use for yours. If you want to do a self-portrait, then you can. If you want to paint somebody else, if you want to make up a body, it's totally up to you. Like I said, each time you do this, you can do it in a different way. So I've just started at the top and I've just created the boob shapes, which are essentially sort of curved-like shapes. And then I'm adding a shape around the side. To the left, I've added a small sort of curve going into the middle of the canvas and then a larger curve going out. I think it's quite nice if you see a little bit of wobble and movement in your pencil lines. We want this to look lovely and unique and free. I'm then doing a sort of scooped curved shape on the base. This is just below the stomach area. And then to create the leg, I'm doing another curve around. And then almost creating like a V shape by doing just a small curve to meet that line. So it looks like one of the legs is crossing over just slightly in front of the other. I'm just doing a small curved semicircle for the belly button. You can then go ahead and add nipples if you want to. And as an added extra, if you want to kind of add arms sort of going upwards in different directions, you can just bring this up from either side of where the boobs are. So that's the one on the left and then the one on the right. And just remember that we want to be free with this. We want each body to be unique. Again, there's no right or wrong. Please don't be too hard on yourself. Every single body is wonderful and unique and beautiful in its own way, and that is what we're celebrating here. So once you're happy with your design, I've just got mine next to me, just so I can use it to refer to. I'm now just going to mix up the colour to paint it onto my canvas. So I'm going to go for this pink shade. So I've added a little bit of white as my base, and then I've added this pink to it because this pink is very, very warm and hot, which I love, but I just want to make sure that it stands out. So adding that white will just help it pop. And I'm just mixing this up with one of my larger brushes just to make sure I'm mixing up enough paint. If you really want to, you can also go ahead and add a pencil line drawing to your canvas. I would just be careful that you can't actually rub this out. So if you are using a pencil to kind of sketch it in first, just be wary to push very, very lightly. I'm now just going in with my smaller brush, just picking up some of this pink paint. What we can then do is just prepare our brush. So I just like to sort of twist the handle of the brush and push the bristles down on a spare area of my palette just to bring the bristles of the brush to a nice point. It just helps you if you want to have a little bit more control with what you're painting. Now we can take this really slowly. There's no need to rush. So I'm just starting with the left boob, just curving it around, leaving a little gap, and then I'm doing the other one on the other side. Again, totally up to you, the size, shape, design. You want to go for this, please just make these paintings your own. Then adding the curve on the left. Then doing a line, bringing it slightly in, and then curving around. Again, don't worry if you've got a little wobble in your paintbrush. I think it's really nice, especially when we come to paint the body. Then going to focus on the other side, again just sort of bringing this around and then slightly more towards the centre of the canvas as we come around to where the legs would be crossing at the base. Going in with the stomach line, so again just doing a curved line around. And then from this line we can draw in the front leg, the leg that's going to be crossing over the back leg. So another curve. And if you want to, you can bring your lines all the way down to meet the edge of the canvas. I'm just stopping it short. Then just added that small V. Doing the little mark for the belly button. And then going in and I'm going to add a few sort of half nipple shapes to one of the boobs, and then a full one to the one that's sort of going more towards the side. Then take a little step back, decide if you want to add the arms in. I'm just going to add them both in, sort of as though the arms are stretching up. What we can now do is spend a moment just going over all of those lines. If you want to really make these lines pop, I sometimes find that you have to do a couple of coats of this paint. So you can just enjoy this process, picking up some of the paint and just going over those lines. If you want to change them up ever so slightly, make them a bit wider, slightly more curved, this is your chance to amend your painting however you wish. We're now coming towards the end of our painting. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that you all enjoyed that. Our aim with Brush and Bubbles is to make art fun and accessible to everyone. If you like this video, then please do give us a little thumbs up and subscribe to our channel because it really helps us out. We bring you new painting tutorials all the time so that you can get creative from the comfort of your own home. Thanks everyone. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye.